Well, good evening. It is a cold and rainy day. We are obviously not in my truck for dash cam with Derrick. I'm in my office and just felt like it'd probably be a little safer if we just did it in here instead of out there. And so I'm thankful that you were able to kind of tune in with us here online and listen to just some words of encouragement in our midweek Bible study. You know, we have started a little study on the parables that we find in Matthew. A couple of weeks ago, we looked at the parable of the lampstand. We kind of put it to the contrast of when the Jews did the Feast of Lights and they lit those really big 4 candlesticks that kind of shines throughout the whole city at the end of the Feast of Booths, and just how that light and what it represented and how it just kind of led people through the wilderness. And so we kind of looked at that and looked at how we are to be a light into this world and how we are to shine on goodness and shine on Christ and not shine on the things that are negative. And so this time I want us to look at another parable that we find in Matthew, and it's found in Matthew chapter 7. And this is the parable of the wise builder and the foolish builder. Now, I never consider myself to be a builder or a contractor, but it doesn't mean that I have not attempted to build some things. There are 2 things that I have built that I would like to tell you about. The first one was a deer stand, and we call it the penthouse. And even to this day, this penthouse is still there. It can fit anywhere from 1 to 6 people in it. It's absolutely huge. And some really good deer have been killed out of that deer stand. And then I attempted to build another deer stand, and we call that the big stand. And to this day, it has crumbled. It's not functional anymore. And I hate that, but it is what it is. I'm not a contractor. I'm not a builder. But you know, when you hear the words that we find in Matthew chapter 7, I can take a look at this and say, you know what? I'm still a wise builder. And let me explain to you the reason why. Look at Matthew chapter 7, starting verse 24. Everyone who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man that built his house on the rock. Now we know this, many of us know this because of the song that we sing with our kids. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat on the house, but it did not fall because it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who builds his house on the sand. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat against the house and the house fell. And great was the fall of it. I like this passage because somebody like me, I heard the words of the instructions. I listened to the way of how to build these deer stands. And so I would have to consider myself to be wise. I didn't do a very good job on them, but I did. I listened to it. I obeyed it. I followed it. I still messed up. It still doesn't look like the best deer stand. And one of the deer stands still not really functional. But in the words of Christ, when I look at it in the sense of that, I may be a wise contractor. But now what is he really talking about, though, here? When you think about this passage, and then you think about what was said and what he stated prior to this, you would almost think he's like, has Christ gone crazy? Has he lost it? Did he not hear what he just said? Listen to what he says in Matthew chapter 7, verse 21. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. And on that day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not cast out demons in your name? Did we not do mighty works in your name? And then will I declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. See, in verse 24, he said, those who hear these words of mine and does them is like a man who builds his house on a rock. But then in Matthew chapter 7 verse 21, he has people who said, listen, have I not cast out demons? Have I not prophesied in your name? Have I not done mighty works in your name? Sounds like some people who have done some things, done some works in his name. And Christ very quickly shows the difference between 2 types of people. People who does work so that attention can be drawn on them, and people who does work so that they would be humbled and Christ would be lifted up. See, remember, he has a crowd of people around him. All kinds of people. Matter of fact, Matthew chapter 4, in the last part of that chapter, you find out exactly the kinds of people who are surrounding Christ. And even in that crowd, you have people like Pharisees and scribes. You have people, the workers of the law. You have people who are really just adamant that they follow the Torah. And he says, listen, now what I need you to do is listen to the words that I have just said to you and do them. And man, when you think about what was just said to them, it's completely different than the ones who cast out demons and the ones who prophesy and the ones who do mighty works, because a lot of people do those things during this time, drawing attention to themselves. But when you actually look at the Sermon on the Mount and you actually look at Matthew chapter 5 and Matthew chapter 6 and Matthew chapter 7, you find out very quickly it's not about ourselves. I want you to listen to some of the things in which Christ said. Just at the very beginning, he said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God." You can continue on, and we can see about the light that is set on a hill. You can continue to follow our anger, that you shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment, but whoever insults his brother will be liable to counsel. Whoever says you fool will be liable to the hell of fire. So if you are offering your gift as an altar, and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there. It's not about you. Before the altar and go, first be reconciled to your brother, and then come offer your gift. You see that through the instructions of divorce. You see that through the instructions of oath, through retaliation. Listen, he deals with loving your enemies in this message that he says, listen, hear these words of mine. He talked about in chapter 6, giving to the needy. He talks about when you pray to God, this is how you humble yourself and you pray to God. He talks about laying up treasures up in heaven and not here on earth. Look, he talked about don't be anxious about the things of right now. I have taken care of the birds of the air. I will take care of you. And he goes on throughout this message, and it's a message about humility of ourselves and the life of others. Because that's what Christ was about. Christ humbled himself, came to this earth, became a servant, and served others. And so, when you think about being a wise builder and a foolish builder, that's exactly what we need to think about. We need to go back and look at the instructions that Christ gave on the Sermon on the Mount. We need to look at the words that Paul has given us in the letters that were inspired by God, that he gave to Paul, about how we are to look at others and how we are to follow God's commandments. Not so that we can have the spotlight on us, not that we can puff ourselves up, not that, we can get all the glory and the praise and stuff like that. That's not what it's about. Being a wise builder is taking the instructions of God that we see, that if you love me, you will keep my commandments. I keep them because not so that I can be seen, so that God can be seen and others can be helped. And so when I want to be a wise builder, I need to take the things in which I hear, and it's found in Him, and then I want to do them. Not for the sense of works and salvation and stuff like that. No. It is so that we can help others see Christ. The last passage I want to give you is James chapter 1. Starting in verse 22, it says, "Be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourself. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself, goes away, and at once forgets what he has like, or what he was like. But the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and preserves, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doing. If anyone thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his heart, this person's religion is worthless. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God, the Father, is this: to visit orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from this world." So many people look in the mirror and all they see is themselves. because that's what they believe it's like. And when they leave, they forget, what is the purpose that Christ has put me here for? But then there are those who look in the mirror and they see the law of liberty. They see the very thing in which will save and set free God's people. And that is exactly what we need. We need wise builders who looks into a mirror and they see not themselves, but they see Christ. They see Christ that's living in them. And because of that, great and wonderful things will be done in this dark world that seems to be right now. So just ask yourself, are you a wise builder or are you a foolish builder? If you're somebody that likes attention, then you're a foolish builder. If you're someone that wants to help others and shine light on Christ and it's not about you, you're a wise builder. I hope that you have a great day. I hope that all those who are dealing with COVID, I hope that you're recovering. Walker, his last day is today. I believe we get to get out tomorrow out of quarantine. I grabbed Braden. We went to a deer stand in Senatobia and kind of got away from everybody and didn't even get to spend time with the grandparents. We just went straight to the woods. And so I, here in my office, got my door closed, just trying to stay away. And so I hope that everybody's doing well. I was able to talk to quite a few of you this week, throughout the week. And so still praying for you. If you need anything, just give us a call. Love y'all.